At my wedding reception, my sister threw champagne on me, yelling, "Now you look expensive for once." Mom gasped, then hugged her. I stayed silent. That night I locked the family card. By morning her college email read, "Payment declined, enrollment withdrawn." Mom called, voice shaking. At my wedding reception, under the string lights and expensive flower arrangements I paid for myself, my sister walked straight up to me, raised a glass of champagne and poured it slowly down the front of my dress. Then, loud enough to cut through the music and clinking glasses, she said, "Now you finally look expensive." For a second no one moved. Then my mom gasped, and wrapped her arms around Ashley like she was the one who just got humiliated. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, soaked in champagne, in a dress I worked weekends and late nights to afford. People stared, whispered, a few guests pulled out their phones. Derek looked stunned but didn't move. Neither did my dad. And I realized then I'd been paying for this, literally and emotionally, for years. Ashley's tuition, her off-campus housing, the groceries she couldn't afford, the $300 car repair she guilted my mom into asking me to cover. All of it came from one card. A card that was opened in my name, under the illusion of helping the family. I didn't even want to think about how much I'd spent. I just knew it was enough to keep Ashley enrolled and floating above responsibility, while I worked overtime and got attitude in return. She called it temporary support. My parents called it being a good sister. And that's what I kept telling myself too, until she humiliated me at my own wedding. That night, once the guests left and we got back to the suite, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, pulled out my laptop and logged into the account. Her school's payment portal was still open in one of the tabs. She must have used my computer to check it while she was getting ready. I scrolled through the transactions. Over $18,000 in just under a year. I locked the card. Deleted the auto payments. Removed her from everything. Done. The next morning I was brushing my teeth when my phone lit up. First with a text from Ashley, just a bunch of question marks, and then a frantic email forward from her school's registrar. Subject: payment failure, enrollment canceled. 10 minutes later my mom called. I let it ring the first time. Second time I picked up. "What happened to the tuition?" "Ashley's trying to register and everything's locked. She says the payment didn't go through." I laughed once and said, "Ask your beloved daughter Ashley," and hung up. By noon the group chat with me, my mom and my dad was blowing up. At first it was confusion. Then guilt-tripping. Then blame. I didn't respond to any of it. By evening my mom left a voicemail. Said they needed to talk. That Ashley was devastated. That this could ruin her academic career. And all I could think was, good. She ruined my wedding day in one sentence and a cheap drink. She could figure out her own tuition. By the next morning Ashley was everywhere. Missed calls. Rambling texts. A voice memo where she was clearly crying but also somehow still blaming me. She kept saying I blindsided her. That I didn't need to be petty. That if I had a problem with her I should have said it like an adult. Like an adult. This from the girl who poured champagne on me in front of my husband's grandmother. The family group chat turned into a battlefield. My mom said Ashley made a mistake but didn't deserve to have her future destroyed. My dad asked if we could meet to talk calmly. I didn't answer. I was on a flight to Maui. Derek and I had planned a delayed honeymoon. We weren't supposed to leave for another week, but after what happened at the reception we bumped it up. I needed out. I didn't even post pictures. I didn't want Ashley knowing where I was. She'd probably show up with a sob story and a GoFundMe link. 3 days into the trip I woke up to a new voicemail from my mom. She said they didn't have the money to cover Ashley's next tuition deadline. That without reinstating her classes she'd lose her apartment and possibly her student visa. News to me. Apparently Ashley had been on an international program for a year and hadn't told anyone she was behind on paperwork. Then she said something that almost made me laugh. She's not thinking straight. She says she might just leave school altogether. You know how she gets. I deleted the message. By then I wasn't even angry. Just done. There's a difference. Anger wants a response. Done is silent. Ashley was the kind of person who lit fires just to see who'd run to put them out. And I'd spent years running. My parents too. But now that I'd stopped she was burning through them instead. On the 5th day of the trip, Derek handed me his phone. He had been checking our shared email and said, "You need to see this." It was from the university. Apparently Ashley had shown up to the financial office in person, made a scene, claimed her sponsor had defrauded her, and demanded her enrollment be restored out of compassion. They refused. They noted that unless full payment was made in 48 hours, she'd be removed from the housing roster and placed on leave for the semester. That night my dad called me. Just him this time. He said they didn't have the money, that they were ashamed of how she acted at the wedding, that maybe I'd been right all along. Then came the ask. Could I just cover this one last payment? Just to keep her enrolled. She'd pay me back. They'd help. She was applying for scholarships. I said no. There was a pause. Then he said, "We'll figure something out." I'm sorry. It was the first time I'd heard those words from either of them. When we landed back in the States, I had 47 unread messages. Most from Ashley. A few from my mom. One from my aunt in Florida, who heard some version of the story and thought I was being cruel. Ashley had apparently rewritten the whole event into something that painted her as the victim of a family betrayal. According to her, she had made a playful joke at the wedding and I'd overreacted by cutting off her lifeline. She left out the part where she drenched me in champagne, and the part where she humiliated me in front of my husband's family. But the story worked on some people. Friends started demanding me with questions. My cousin from San Diego texted, saying she hoped we could all heal. Ashley was trying to turn the fallout into a sympathy campaign. I even found an anonymous post on Reddit. Yeah, Reddit. Describing a bride who financially ruined her sister over a harmless wedding joke. The timing, the details, it was her. No doubt. She was spiraling but still trying to stay in control of the narrative. Classic Ashley. She'd burn the house down and then claim she smelled smoke first. Then came the call I'd been expecting. My mom again. Her voice wasn't shaking this time. Was exhausted. She told me Ashley had officially been removed from school. They missed the payment window. Her student account was frozen. Financial aid was revoked. She had 10 days to vacate the student apartment. She was back home, living in the guest room, refusing to talk to anyone. And this part actually surprised me. My mom admitted they'd enabled her. That they thought I'd always keep fixing things. That they didn't realize how bad it had gotten until I stopped. That was the first real conversation we'd had in months. Maybe years. I asked her what the plan was. She sighed and said, "We told her to get a job." I nearly dropped the phone. My parents, the ones who used to tiptoe around Ashley's every tantrum, who used to lecture me on compassion whenever I got fed up, had told her to get a job. And apparently Ashley had screamed, thrown her phone at the wall, and called me a jealous bitch for turning everyone against her. I wasn't even surprised. That's just who she is when she can't manipulate the room. But this time the room wasn't listening. That night, Derek and I opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving and sat out on the patio. I told him everything. From the moment I added her to the card to the day I locked it. I didn't realize how much I'd been carrying until I said it all out loud. He just listened. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't say I told you so. Just let me get it out. The next day Ashley tried calling me again. This time she left a voicemail where she sobbed and said she was on the verge of losing everything. She asked if we could talk. Said she needed her sister. I deleted it without replying. I wasn't trying to punish her. I just didn't believe her anymore. Ashley didn't want a sister. She wanted a safety net. And now she had to face the ground. 2 weeks after the voicemail, I got a text from Ashley. It wasn't emotional or dramatic or filled with fake apologies. It was short. "Since you ruined school for me, the least you can do is help me find a job." That was it. No greeting. No question. Just a demand dressed up like a favor. I stared at it for a full minute, then locked my phone and went back to loading the dishwasher. I wasn't surprised anymore. Just tired. I didn't respond. The next day she emailed me a list of job postings. I guess she assumed I'd be submitting the applications for her. I forwarded it to my mom with no message. That night my mom called again. This time she was half whispering like she didn't want Ashley to hear. She said things at home were getting bad. Ashley refused to get out of bed some mornings. She'd sleep until 2, complain there was no real food, leave her laundry in piles all over the floor, and scream when anyone asked her to help. When my dad finally told her to clean up the kitchen or move out, she locked herself in the guest room and started blasting music until 4 a.m. She wasn't just refusing to take responsibility. She was trying to punish everyone for no longer saving her. Mom told me they cut her off from everything. No more Uber rides. No more using their Instacart. Dad shut down the spare Amazon account she used to buy makeup and clothes with. She freaked. Claimed they were trying to make her homeless. That they were emotionally abusing her. Same language she used when I stopped paying. It was always the same pattern with Ashley. Deflect, accuse, implode. She didn't know how to survive without playing the victim, and when that stopped working she flailed harder. My mom asked if I thought Ashley would get violent. That caught me off guard. I asked why she'd say that. She said last week Ashley had thrown a ceramic vase at the wall during an argument. Missed my dad by inches. I didn't even know what to say. That was past drama. That was something else entirely. But I said the only thing I could. Get her out. I told them if they didn't draw the line now, they'd be dealing with this forever. I told them I loved them, but I wouldn't come rescue them if she tore the house apart. They didn't argue. That was new. 3 days later, I got another message from my mom. Just 3 words. She moved out. No details. No warning. No drama. Just that. I found out later Ashley had stormed out after my dad told her they were charging her rent starting next month. She grabbed 2 duffel bags, took the last $80 in her checking account and left. Didn't say where she was going. Didn't say when she'd be back. And for the first time in a long time, no one ran after her. She didn't post on social media for a week. That's how I knew something was actually happening. Ashley lived online. If she was suffering, she wanted everyone to see it. But this time, radio silence. No selfies. No vague quotes about betrayal. No passive-aggressive, "some people aren't who they pretend to be" stories. Then out of nowhere she popped up again. A single photo on her Instagram story. A blurry mirror selfie in a cheap-looking apartment bathroom. The caption said, "Starting over. Watch me." No tags. No location. No details. But I could tell it wasn't just for her followers. That message was for me. For our parents. For anyone she thought had doubted her. She wanted it to look like she was thriving. The truth unraveled 2 days later when one of her old roommates messaged me privately. We'd only met once, but I guess she figured I deserved a heads up. She said Ashley had begged her and 2 other girls to let her crash on their couch for a week or 2. Said she'd pay soon. It had already been 3 weeks. No money. Barely any groceries. She never cleaned, hogged the bathroom, and borrowed clothes without asking. She told them she'd gotten a retail job, but according to the roommate she hadn't worked a single shift. Claimed she was onboarding. Then blamed the manager for discriminating against her vibe. I wanted to say I was shocked. But honestly, I was just relieved I wasn't the one dealing with it anymore. Meanwhile, my parents were unrecognizable. My dad picked up a weekend side job for extra income, said it felt good to do something for himself. My mom started therapy, actual therapy, not the kind she used to pretend Ashley needed. She even told me she wanted to apologize to Derek in person for everything that happened at the wedding. It was like watching them finally wake up after years of sleepwalking through Ashley's mess. One night, Derek and I were having dinner when I got a text from an unknown number. Just a blurry photo of Ashley sitting on a curb with a suitcase and a trash bag beside her. No caption. I stared at it for a long time. Wondered if it was sent by accident. Or if it was bait. I never replied. A few days later, my mom texted that Ashley had come back. Again. But this time things were different. They let her in. Let her sleep. But they told her clearly that the only way she could stay was if she got a full-time job, paid a portion of rent, and bought her own groceries. Ashley screamed. Said they were kicking her while she was down. And my dad, who never raised his voice to her growing up, said something I'll never forget. She's not down. She's just finally on the ground. They stood firm. She packed her bags again and left within the hour. No tears. No hugs. No parting words. Just the sound of the door closing. This time they didn't follow her. And neither did I. A month passed. No calls. No texts. Not from her, not about her. It was the quietest month I'd had in years. The kind of silence you don't realize you were craving until it finally settles. Ashley was just gone. Not in the literal sense. People still saw her. A friend of mine spotted her working part-time at a vape shop near campus. Said she was wearing sunglasses indoors and pretending not to recognize anyone. Someone else said she was living with a guy who DJ'd at a bar and had big connections in Miami. Typical Ashley falling into whatever felt like the opposite of structure. but from my life. Gone. And the impact was instant. My parents stopped acting like referees. We started having real conversations again, about regular things. Not just Ashley. Not just whatever latest fire needed putting out. I visited one Sunday, and for the first time in I don't know how long, no one tiptoed around their words. There were no forced smiles. No quiet tension. Just actual peace. My mom asked me how married life was going. My dad made a joke about Derek finally learning how to grill properly. It felt normal. Like something that had been buried under years of chaos was slowly resurfacing. I never brought Ashley up, and neither did they. Until the day I got the letter. It came in the mail. No return address, just my name written in handwriting I hadn't seen in a long time. Messy, rushed, but unmistakably hers. Inside, 4 pages handwritten on notebook paper. He said she was sorry. Not for what happened at the wedding, not directly, but sorry I felt like she hated me. Sorry I never understood her. Sorry our parents always compared us. It wasn't an apology. It was an explanation. Or a justification. Maybe both. She talked about how hard school had been, how lost she felt, how she always thought I'd just be there no matter what. Then she wrote something I didn't expect. I wanted to hurt you that day, because I thought you had everything. And I had nothing. But it didn't make me feel better. It made me feel smaller. And now everything's quiet. And I don't know who I am without you to blame. I read that line 3 times. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and slid it into a drawer I rarely open. Not because I forgave her. Not because it changed anything. But because something about it felt final. The last echo of a voice that had been too loud for too long. I haven't heard from her since. A mutual friend told me she's still working odd jobs, couch hopping, chasing something vague and dramatic and just out of reach. I don't keep up. I don't need to. I built a life without her noise in it. And it's quiet now. Not empty. Just quiet. And I've never been more sure that silence is something you earn.